You've probably met him before. A man who thinks he knows it all, who never listens, never learns, and always blames the world for everything that goes wrong. Maybe he's a coworker. Maybe he's your friend. Or maybe, on your worst days, it's you. And before you click away or roll your eyes, ask yourself this. What if the difference between a wise man and a foolish one isn't intelligence, but awareness? See, stupidity isn't just loud and obvious. It's often subtle. It hides behind pride, comfort, and ego. It's not always the guy who failed high school, or the one making dumb jokes at the bar. Sometimes it's the man in a suit, the man with a degree, the man who's built a life, but never once questioned the way he's living it. Over the years, I've seen a pattern. There are certain behaviors, 6 of them, to be exact, that show up again and again in men who are stuck, bitter, and declining. These aren't flaws in intelligence. They're failures in wisdom. And if you spot them in someone else, or in yourself, don't feel ashamed. Feel aware, because awareness is the beginning of change. Stoic philosophy doesn't shame you for being foolish. It simply invites you to grow. It reminds us that even the wisest men were once foolish, and that what matters most is whether you choose to stay that way. So let's walk this road together. 6 signs. 6 chances to reflect. 6 ways to avoid becoming the kind of man who never evolves. Let's begin. Number 1. Fear of change. He'll tell you he's just set in his ways, that he likes things the way they've always been. He might even say it with pride, like it's some badge of honor. But behind that tough exterior is something more fragile, fear. Fear of change is one of the clearest signs of a stupid man. Because while the world moves forward, he stays still, clutching onto old routines like a child refusing to let go of a worn-out toy. I once knew a man named Michael. He lived in the same neighborhood for over 40 years. Same routines, same people, same corner shop. When his kids grew up and moved away, they begged him to come live closer, to start fresh in a better area, with better healthcare, better safety, better everything. But Michael refused. I know everyone here, he said. Why would I start over now? What he didn't see, what he couldn't accept, was that his world was already changing. The people he once knew had moved away. The stores had shut down. The neighborhood he clung to wasn't the same, but his mindset was frozen in time. He mistook familiarity for stability. And like many men who fear change, he waited until he had no choice. Only after a break-in, followed by a health scare, did he finally move. And when he did, he found not just comfort, but connection, meals with his grandkids, walks in the park, and a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. Change didn't destroy him. It saved him. Stoic philosophy teaches us that everything in life is in motion. Nothing stays the same. Not your body, not your job, not your relationships, not even the man in the mirror. To resist change is to resist nature itself. And when you fight nature, you always lose. The stupid man thinks change is a threat. The wise man knows change is an invitation, a chance to learn, to grow, to evolve. Because every time life pushes you out of your comfort zone, it's offering you a choice, adapt or decay. So ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's no longer serving you? A habit? A belief? A relationship? What part of your life needs to shift, but your pride won't let it? Let go. Not because it's easy, but because staying the same costs more than you think. Change isn't the enemy. Stagnation is. Number 2. Talking more than listening. There's a certain kind of man who believes that every silence needs to be filled with his voice. He talks not to connect, but to control. He interrupts not because he's excited, but because he can't bear the thought of someone else having the spotlight. He's not curious. He's not learning. He's just talking. And that, my friend, is a mark of a stupid man. John was that kind of man. A father of 3, husband of 1, but listener to none. Every evening at dinner, he would go on and on, stories from work, political opinions, complaints about the world. His kids barely got a word in. His wife silently chewed, eyes drifting to the clock. It wasn't that John was a bad man. He just never realized that talking is not the same as leading, and that dominance in conversation doesn't equal respect. When his teenage daughter finally built up the courage to speak up about a problem at school, he cut her off halfway through to explain what she should have done. That was the last time she tried to confide in him. It took years of distance, of cold shoulders, of missed moments, before John realized what his constant need to speak had cost him. Connection, trust, and intimacy. All the things he claimed to value as a father and a man. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom isn't found in speaking, but in listening. Marcus Aurelius said, Learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. And often, what makes no difference is your need to be heard when you haven't earned the right to speak. Listening is not passive. It's an active discipline. It requires humility, patience, and empathy. It means silencing the ego long enough to actually hear the world and the people you say you care about. But the stupid man doesn't listen. He's already forming his next argument while you're speaking. He's waiting for a pause just so he can hijack the conversation. He doesn't seek to understand. He seeks to win. And in doing so, he loses the very people who might have taught him something. So if you find yourself dominating conversations or brushing off others' input, take a moment and ask, when was the last time I listened without thinking of what to say next? When was the last time someone felt heard because of me? Because here's the truth, wise men speak when they have something valuable to add. Stupid men speak because they can't stand silence. Learn the difference, and you'll be amazed how much the world starts opening up to you. Number 3. Arrogance over humility. A stupid man often hides behind a loud mask, and that mask is arrogance. He confuses confidence with superiority. He believes being right is more important than being kind. And worst of all, he thinks learning is something only other people need to do. Michael was one of the brightest men I'd ever met, on paper. Degrees, experience, impressive resume. But in every meeting, he made one thing very clear. He was the smartest guy in the room. He interrupted others constantly, corrected small mistakes just to show off, and made sure everyone knew how much more he knew. At first, people respected him, or at least pretended to. But soon, his team stopped offering ideas. They stopped speaking up altogether. Why bother when Michael already had all the answers? Ironically, when a major project failed due to poor team communication, Michael didn't understand what went wrong. He couldn't see that it was his arrogance, not their incompetence, that led to the collapse. And that's the tragedy of arrogance. It blinds you to your own role in failure. It convinces you that growth is beneath you. That feedback is an insult. That you're somehow above the rules everyone else must follow. Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Let that sink in. If you believe you have nothing left to learn, then life has nothing left to teach you. Humility doesn't mean shrinking yourself. It means being honest about your limitations. It means recognizing that wisdom is a lifelong pursuit, not a trophy you earn once and display forever. The humble man listens more than he speaks, asks more than he answers, and never assumes he's finished becoming who he's meant to be. Arrogance, on the other hand, is noise. It shouts over reason, drowns out empathy, and isolates a man from both truth and progress. So here's a challenge. The next time someone criticizes you, don't react, reflect. Don't defend, absorb. Ask yourself, what if they're right? Not every critique is an attack. Sometimes it's a gift in disguise. Because in the end, a wise man doesn't need to prove he's smart. He's too busy learning, too busy growing, too focused on the bigger picture to waste time flexing his ego. Drop the mask. The only thing arrogance ever protects you from is growth. Number 4. Constant blaming. Blame is the easiest escape route a stupid man will take. When things go wrong, he points fingers, in every direction except the mirror. The project failed? Someone else dropped the ball. The relationship ended? She was too emotional. The job didn't work out. The boss was out to get him. And the worst part, he believes it, because taking responsibility would mean admitting imperfection. And that, he just can't do. Let me tell you about Eric. Smart guy, ambitious. But every time something didn't go his way, he had a story ready. When he missed a promotion, he blamed office politics. When he lost clients, he blamed the market. When his friends stopped calling, he blamed them for being fake. In reality, Eric was the common denominator. But he couldn't see it, because his ego built a wall too high to look over. Eventually, Eric's career plateaued. His relationships faded. And his reputation? Let's just say people admired his talent, but avoided his presence. Because nobody wants to work with a man who always has an excuse, but never has accountability. Stoic philosophy cuts through this noise. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the Stoic truth. The world doesn't owe you a perfect life. But you owe yourself an honest one. Blaming is easy. Growth is hard. But only one of them makes you stronger. The stupid man clings to blame, because it protects his fragile sense of self. But the wise man takes responsibility, not because he enjoys being wrong, but because he values truth more than pride. And let's be honest, every time you blame someone else, you give away your power. You hand it over and say, "My life is in your hands." But when you own your actions, even your failures, you reclaim control. You take back the wheel. So if you find yourself always explaining why it's someone else's fault, pause. Ask yourself, what role did I play in this? Even if it's just 10%, own that 10%. That's where growth lives. Because blame won't build anything. But responsibility? That's the first brick in the foundation of character. So stop pointing fingers. The man who constantly blames others is just running from the one battle that truly matters, the one inside himself. Number 5. Lack of empathy. You can tell a lot about a man by how he treats someone who can't do anything for him. A stupid man sees the world only through the lens of his own needs, his own struggles, his own priorities. Everyone else? Background noise. Tools. Obstacles. Extras in the movie where he's the star. Empathy doesn't even cross his mind until life forces it upon him. Take Paul, for example, a senior manager in a mid-sized company. Sharp, efficient, and completely unaware of the people around him. When a junior colleague, Susan, missed a deadline, Paul didn't ask questions. He didn't check in. He didn't pause. He humiliated her in front of the entire team, assuming she was lazy or careless. What he didn't know, what he never bothered to find out, was that Susan's son had been in the hospital for days. She was barely holding it together. And Paul, too self-absorbed to care. Months later, Paul's own mother fell seriously ill. He found himself missing meetings, juggling doctor visits, and drowning in emotional fatigue. And only then, did he realize the pain he'd caused Susan. But by that point, the damage was already done. Her trust was gone. So was her respect. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is the highest good, and empathy is a core part of it. To be wise is not just to think deeply, but to feel deeply. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Empathy isn't weakness. It's not soft. It's not unmanly. It's strength under control. It's having the clarity to recognize that everyone's fighting battles you can't see, and the maturity to respond with patience instead of judgment. The stupid man believes that being tough means being cold, that emotions are liabilities. But the wise man knows that the most powerful form of strength is emotional awareness, the ability to meet others where they are without losing yourself. So ask yourself, when was the last time you really listened to someone? Not to fix them, not to respond, just to understand. Can you sit with someone's pain without rushing to compare it to your own? Can you hold space for another person's story without making it about you? Because if you can't, you're not strong, you're just numb. And numbness leads to isolation. And isolation? That's the quiet death of every man who thought he didn't need connection. Wisdom is built on compassion. Empathy doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you more of a human. Number 6. A closed mind. There's a certain danger in being too sure of yourself. A man with a closed mind doesn't just reject new ideas, he builds walls against them. He clings to what he knows, not because it's right, but because it's comfortable. And slowly, without realizing it, he turns his mind into a prison. Take Mark. He was a department head at a growing company. For years, he stuck to the same old routines, same spreadsheets, same timelines, same meeting formats. When a younger employee suggested a new project management system that could save hours of work every week, Mark laughed it off. "We've been doing it this way for 10 years, he said. "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." But it was broken. He just didn't want to see it. While other teams embraced new tools and adapted quickly, Mark's department started slipping. Missed deadlines, decreased morale, frustrated staff. Yet Mark kept doubling down, blaming the team, the clients, even the market. Everyone but himself. His pride had become his blindfold. And when leadership finally stepped in to restructure the department, it was too late. Mark had already lost the respect of his team, and the position he once thought was untouchable. The Stoics warned against this kind of rigidity. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to stay a student, even as an emperor. A closed mind is not a sign of strength. It's a fear-based defense mechanism. It says, "I can't risk being wrong, so I won't even listen." But the truth is, you can't grow without being challenged. You can't evolve without discomfort. And you definitely can't become wise by clinging to outdated beliefs out of pride. The stupid man builds mental walls. The wise man builds mental bridges. So here's the test. When was the last time you changed your mind? Not because you were pressured, but because you genuinely listened, considered, and saw things differently. If the answer is, I can't remember, then maybe the fortress you've built around your beliefs is doing more harm than good. The mind is meant to expand, not harden. And the moment you stop letting in new ideas is the moment you start dying inside. Remember, strength isn't in being unmovable. It's in being adaptable, curious, and open, even when it's uncomfortable. Drop the shield. Tear down the walls. Open the door. Wisdom is waiting outside. So now you've seen them, the 6 signs of a stupid man. But before you judge someone else or start making a mental checklist of all the people who fit these traits, stop. Take a breath. Because the truth is, we've all been that man at some point. We've feared change. We've talked too much and listened too little. We've been arrogant. We've blamed others. We've lacked empathy. We've closed our minds. Every single one of us. And that's not shameful. That's human. What separates the wise from the foolish isn't perfection, it's self-awareness. The ability to look in the mirror and say, I can do better. To admit where we've gone wrong and choose a different path. That's where real strength begins. Stoic philosophy doesn't demand that you never fail. It demands that you never stop learning. It asks you to face your ego, challenge your habits, and take responsibility for your mind, because that's the one thing in life you truly control. So if one, or all, of these signs felt uncomfortably familiar, good. That means you're paying attention. That means you've already taken the first step, awareness. Now comes the next step, action. Change how you speak. Listen more than you talk. Take ownership. Stay open. Stay humble. Stay human. Because stupidity is not a life sentence. It's a choice. And so is wisdom. Choose wisely.